All right, now. So thank you for being on with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you, and who are you with?
Yeah, my name is David Miller, and I am the operations manager for Child Freedom Coalition. And Child Freedom Coalition works with some pastors in India who, for over a decade, have been rescuing children out of slavery and giving them new life through education, vocational training, and that's in situations where they can't be, reunited with their parents.
So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, so there was a good work sort of going on in India, right? Tell me about what you guys sort of found there and what was happening.
Yeah, so my boss and his dad have been working in India for over a decade with this partner, and so Fenton Moorhead, who's the um, who's the initial contact with Praveen and the other pastors there in India, has been a missions pastor for
He was the executive director at Brookwood, right?
yeah,
For a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so he connected with Praveen. Um, 10 plus years ago, and through that connection saw one of the most amazing things that he'd seen in missions work in his career. And so in that, David and then eventually myself and a couple other people began working in our roles to fund, supply what Praveen and his pastors were doing there in India to rescue kids and give them new life. I don't know if that fully answered your question.
Yeah, no, it did. What, as far as for the kids over there, I mean, what is reality like for some? I mean, slavery is usually something that, when you think slavery in the United States, you just think, oh, that ended a few hundred years ago, or 100 years ago, but uh, not the case worldwide, huh?
Right, and so one of the things in India that is pretty significant is the caste system. So
Right.
so that was outlawed in the 1950s, but passing a law doesn't make something that's existed for 4 or 5 thousand years just disappear. And so the caste system has a big effect on what slavery is. So you're talking about a country of 1.4 billion people in the last census, but on that census, even the Indian government left off 400 million people who are untouchables. So people who are not even good enough to make it into the caste
Into
system,
this.
right? Literal outcasts. And
Right.
so these people are preyed upon as part of the Hindu system. And again, India is a really complex place. It's pretty fascinating because it's a country with nuclear power.
Right.
It's a country with a space program, and it's a country with more slaves than anywhere else in the world.
Wow.
Right? And it's this combination of modern urban India and very, very ancient rural India, and they coexist in the same place. And so all of that feeds slavery. So primarily the kids we're dealing with are children who have whose parents have run up some form of debt, and they take money from a loan shark, and the loan shark then when the families can't pay, these are families that make $1 a day,
Right.
and in that situation when they can't pay the loan shark back, the children are taken as collateral and sold to a rock quarry. They're sold into brick making, or they're sold to brothels, etc.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, that's absolutely heartbreaking. What sort of is the program? I mean, how do you guys, so there's horrible things going on. How do you deal with that? How do you make an impact?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things, but in terms of like just initially rescuing kids, so there's an opportunity to rescue kids. One of our big things is you have to have the resources to care for those kids. If it's a matter of going in and rescuing, um, we could probably rescue 10,000 kids tomorrow if there were the resources to care for those children, and which is a mind-boggling thing. But if you can't care, and then those kids starved to death on your watch, that's like there's a complexity there
Right.
to we have to be able to fully care for the kids that are getting rescued, and so that's one piece of it. But
Sure.
the rescues have happened in a variety of different ways. When Praveen was first getting started, the first child he ever rescued from just abandonment was a little girl who'd been put in the trash. He was walking home from his seminary classes, and he found this little girl in the trash, and that has led to 24, 25,000 children being rescued from slavery since he got started. Our goal is to work specifically with the children who live at the Asylum Children's Home, and the Asylum Children's Home, when it's fully completed, will house about 2,000 children. It'll have a vocational training center so that children who are in our care will be able to be launched into society with jobs well prepared to handle what comes next. We want to make sure that children, when they age out, will be independent and successful. That's really crucial. The suicide rates among kids that have been trafficked and have gone through abuse like this are extremely high compared to the normal population.
Wow.
But we find that in our programs that hasn't been the case because of the job training and because of the Christian community with which these kids graduate.
Yeah, no, that's so important because you're caring not only for, or you're setting them up not only for economic success, but also spirit. They'll have a community, they'll have spiritual success, or at least the ability to. And that is so important. We actually talked about that a few weeks ago. I interviewed Switch, which does work with human trafficking here in our own country. And we talked about sort of that same sort of thing, the thing that nobody really thinks about. You think, well, let's get these kids out of this situation, or let's get these people out of this situation. But then what? And they have now, that's also as horrible as what that was. It was also providing food and a place to sleep. And, as horrible as those conditions are. So yeah, it's you can't just save them and then be like, all right, you're free, because
Right.
Go right back into the same system.
Yeah, and I think the broader system too. One of the things for ending slavery, which is there's lots of organizations doing a lot of good work locally and internationally. But one of those critical pieces is connected to poverty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we aren't preparing the children who graduate to have better lives than the dollar a day, because their children are being set up to end up as slaves. And so that's one of the reasons why this core commitment is so important to us is these graduates. And one of the amazing things that attracted me to this ministry was the graduates themselves. They give back. So upon graduation, they're earning more than their parents would make, and they're living in situations where they're in Christian community, and so they are tithing back to see other kids rescued from slavery, to see other kids who've been rescued cared for. And so over the last 5 or 6 years, we've seen 500 graduates give back over $400,000, which is so amazing when you think about these
standard of livings and those things. Yeah,
it's amazingly sacrificial.
That's amazing, and it's such a good thing too. I'm sure you've read When Helping Hurts. One of the it sounds like you guys are doing a great job of empowering people to really pull them, to work basically to be able to keep pride and to establish their own community and build up their own community, which is so important. That's how you cure a long-term problem, as opposed to coming in, fixing it for a minute and then leaving. That's really an amazing work. What can individuals, right now, what can the most, pretty much all of our listeners are in the US, all I think are in the Western world right now. What can we do to help?
Yeah. Number one, I think acknowledging that slavery exists and being willing to learn more. If the idea of children being in slavery labor, slavery, sex trafficking. If that resonates with you, you need to find out more about that. You can visit our website. There's childfreedom.org. It's pretty simple. And then we have we're located in Greenville, South Carolina. Our main office. We have another office in Houston, but we're doing a 5K coming up on October 5th at Furman University. And it's 8:30 in the morning. It's a couple weeks from today. But you can join the race to end slavery. And so we're really excited about that event. It's not going to be a wildly huge fundraiser, but what it has given us the opportunity to do is to connect with people that we've never met before.
Right.
And that's been really exciting. So we've had meetings with churches and other media outlets because of this race, and it's given us a platform to further our fundraising arm. And then,
right.
and then we obviously have needs,
Sure.
Financial needs, prayer needs, and you can read more about that on the website. There's easy ways to donate, and we're actually really excited. We have child sponsorship is very popular in the nonprofit world,
right.
and there's nothing wrong with that. But we've kind of taken the e-commerce idea into a little bit different direction, where we have some needs, and we've created a Shopify site that's going to be released later next week.
Awesome.
Where you can go and see specific needs, vocational scholarships, furnishing a classroom, buying one student's school supplies. Anything from anything from $25 to $50,000 is there. And I think that Shopify site helps tell our story as well, because we're trying to say we have all kinds of needs and things that we want to do for these kids, and it kind of itemizes that a little bit better.
Yeah, because people don't think about, like, I remember I was reading George Mueller's autobiography, and he was talking about, it's like a whole chapter in there about sheets, about bed sheets, and it's just something like that. You just don't think about all the sort of needs that one has. Who's going to buy toilet paper for 2,000 kids? And it's those are very real, tangible things. So I think that's a great idea, because it sort of like helps make all of that more, I don't know. It helps you realize, like, oh yeah, you need cleaning supplies, and you need just random stuff.
I was in India in April, and we saw them preparing the food, and I was taking video and taking photos, and some of the cooking was being done with wood. They're cooking 40-gallon pots of rice with wood, and so one of the things that they need is a natural gas line, and
right.
Figuring all that out. And they had some natural gas, but it's from tanks, and it's delivery and all these different things. And so anyways, it was fascinating to see food preparation and laundry done
right.
for over 1,000 kids. It's crazy. Imagine going home and you don't have 3 kids to do laundry for, and yourself and your spouse. You have 1,000.
Yeah, I think we do laundry every day. I have 3 young ones, and I think we do laundry every day just for us. So
right.
I shouldn't say we. My wife pretty much did, but but anyway, it's done every day by magic. But that's fantastic. It's gonna be a beautiful time of year for a 5K too. I mean, this is the time to do one.
Yeah, it's a busy day for 5Ks, and I think there's some other events happening on that day. But it's a beautiful place, and we're really excited. We have over 100 people registered, which is great for a first year 5K.
Yeah,
and we're really excited to get all kinds of different people there to support what we're doing, and join that race to end slavery.
Very cool. My wife and I are planning. We haven't registered yet. We're debating whether or not our oldest will be in it or not, but we should. So I'll be near the end somewhere.
I won't be running. I had surgery on my knee about 8 weeks ago, and so I'll be there. I'll be directing, but I will not be running.
Well, that's it'll be great to see you. So prayers for your knee for sure. Yeah. I'm assuming that's probably a running injury, most likely.
It was a soccer injury.
Okay.
And then I had this is the second surgery to follow up and clean up so it's been a long process, but I started jogging for the first time this week, which is,
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, so tell us a little bit about how one goes from, as we sort of move towards the end of the podcast. Tell us a little bit. And one of the big things I try to focus on with the listeners is how when you see a problem, try to solve it. Begin to take steps. How so. You're on vacation, or David's, your boss is on vacation and sees a need there. How do you go from there to now having a fully fledged out and operational and running ministry? Tell me, a little bit about that story.
Yeah, I think watching God do what God wants to do is really an amazing thing. And it's a hard question to answer because the needs that we see in India, millions of children in slavery, thousands of kids locally near our campus needing to be rescued, desperate situations of poverty, and only God, I think resigning yourself to that only God can do what needs to be done, and resigning yourself is maybe a really bad way to say that, but in my pride, or in what can drive that I can do it all, and learning that only God is going to be the one that accomplishes the building of a children's home, or the expansion of vocational training programs, or any of these things that that we want to provide for these children, that we think that God wants to provide for these children, is something that He has to do. And we have seen miracle after miracle in terms of God introducing us to people who they want to connect and they want to fund what we're doing, and sometimes that's a miracle of someone who gives $25 a month, and sometimes that's someone who gives big money year after year after year.
Sure.
And that's an amazing aspect to what we do. And you read George Mueller, and you see how God cares for orphans, and those things are still happening today as well. And I think that is, it comes back to God being big and strong and powerful, and being able to do far more than we can imagine with the abundance of God's economy.
Amen. Yeah, no, that's the perfect answer. I mean, you're exactly right. If meeting a particular need is sort of in the plans for you, if you have there's the inner call, the desire, but then there's also the outer call, which is the means and the providence and all those things coming together. If God's in it, there will be provisions, right? And that's an absolutely amazing thing when that happens.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. Sometimes a $25 gift could be, that can be a tremendously sacrificial gift from someone. Yeah. And
I've been thinking a lot about the story of the widow's mite.
Yeah.
And it has been such a compelling thing to me that God said, and she gave more than all the people dressed up fancy who are dropping in bags of money.
Right.
And how all that works out, I don't know, but I know that a gift given sacrificially and in faith, and I think I'll be the first one to say I think giving begins with your church, and
of course,
and then you outside of that is on top of that, and we love working with churches who give some of those resources to ministries like ours who are evangelizing and rescuing. And I've got a little off track there, but I think that story of the widow's mite, you say, well, I can't give what you need, so I won't give it all. That is I think the widow didn't have to have to give up that penny. God didn't need the penny. He didn't need the $70,000 check either. You know, God's got what he needs, but he does
Right.
ask us to participate, and that's a big
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's Philippians. I think it's 4 actually. I think it's the end of the part of the chapter that's never quoted, but I think it's the very end of chapter 4 where Paul talks about how some are given abundance and some are given need, so that the one who has abundance is blessed in the giving, and the one who has need is blessed in the receiving. It's, if I were organizing everything, I would do it wrong, right? I would give it, I'd make sure, I'd be like, here's money for everybody, here's equal, right? But in actuality, that would be robbing, the one who has excess from the blessing that comes from giving. And excess can be a very, like we said, could be that extra penny that, it's um, all the way up to the one who has need. The ones who have needs are blessed in the receiving.
right.
As
Absolutely.
tragic as these stories are, when those kids are restored and they're put into Christian conversations that they probably wouldn't have had they stayed in their original homes. And so you can sort of see God's providence even in working through each one of those kids.
Yeah, there is one more thing that I would want to add on that's kind of unique about what we do with our financial model, is that we operate on 100% model, which means that we actually have 2 separate bank accounts. And so if someone gives us $50, we send $50 to India. We reimburse the credit card fees, and we have
Wow.
donors and people who believe in our team and that 100% model that cover our salaries and overhead, so that we
Wow.
can continue fundraising. But yeah, if someone makes a donation of any amount, that amount goes to India, and that's really important to us. About 40-50% of Americans don't trust nonprofits,
Right.
and there's good reason for that. If you've read When Helping Hurts, and
Yeah.
there's good reason for that, and we don't want that to be a stumbling block to anyone. And that's been a really exciting thing for us to see resonate with people, that they're 2.5% from the credit card fee or 12% for admin, or none of that is affecting how much they're sending to the programs that we're funding.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very good. Well, thank you so much
Yep.
for joining today.
Great to meet you.
Thank you.